the city of Pickering has witnessed a growing infiltration of alt-right individuals, ideologies, and influences.
People might say, oh, who cares about Pickering? Never been to Pickering, never planned to go. My fear is this virus, this censorship agenda will cotton on, that, other municipalities will say, hey, look what Pickering is doing.
That council member from that, or that mayor from that next municipality over, or even, the other side of the province, can pick it up and say, oh, look, Pickering was successful, and dropping their delegation times from 10 minutes to 5 minutes, or, they've gone to online meetings. So guess what? They can do it. We can do it.
Sir, we've already had the vote. There was no mover. There was no seconder. So you have no permission.
Can you explain, Mayor,
Sir?
why there is no permission?
Sir?
Can you explain the ostensible policy reason why we in the Dominion of Canada are not allowed to cover a taxpayer-funded municipal council meeting?
Is Pickering, Ontario located in the Dominion of Canada or the Democratic People's Republic of Korea? Over the past several months, Rebel News has reported on how this city just east of Toronto is constantly attacking freedom of speech, expression, and of the press. For example, if someone says something or posts something on social media that is deemed to be negative towards a city councillor, that person will receive a visit by bylaw and be given a notice of trespass. No, I'm serious. As well, delegation times have been slashed from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. There is no longer a Q&A period. Media outlets have to be approved by a 2/3 majority of council in order for journalists to cover the meeting. Recording meetings on cell phones is now prohibited, and live feed video of council meetings are allegedly being censored. Meanwhile, members of the Durham Regional Police are now commonplace fixtures, always on standby to remove those who misbehave. And folks, if you want some evidence, check out what happened at the Pickering City Council meeting last month when yours truly paid a visit. Spoiler alert, we did not receive that 2/3 approval.
And the vote is next, is that right?
Sir, we've already had the vote. There was no mover. There was no seconder. So you have no permission.
Can you explain, Mayor,
Sir?
why there is no permission?
Sir?
Can you explain the ostensible policy reason why we in the Dominion of Canada are not allowed to cover a taxpayer-funded municipal council meeting?
Inside, you don't have permission to record here.
Why were we approved before but not now? What is the rationale for that?
Okay. Then have to ask you to step out.
So what does Pickering Mayor Kevin Ash do for a censorious encore in 2025? Well, essentially, he has prorogued City Council. All the council meetings will be going online in 2025. Here, check out the mayor's statement.
Over the past 2 years, the city of Pickering has witnessed a growing infiltration of alt-right individuals, ideologies, and influences that have created an atmosphere of uncertainty, fear, and intimidation over our council, our staff, our residents, and indeed the broader community. As a result, the City of Pickering will be undertaking measures to enhance the personal safety and security for all. In light of these escalating incidents and growing concerns for the safety and well-being of our council, staff, and residents, the City of Pickering has made the decision to move all official meetings to a virtual format starting in January of 2025. This decision was not made lightly, but the increasing threats to our safety demand action. The business of our city must and will continue. We will not expose ourselves to further harassment by these external actors, nor allow them to disrupt our work any longer.
Unbelievable. And what's with this alt-right narrative? Joining me now is Lisa Robinson, the lone councillor in Pickering who is not on Team Tyranny. And yes, Lisa Robinson has paid a severe price for voicing a contrarian opinion. Lisa, thanks so much for joining me, and Happy New Year. I wish it was under better circumstances.
Yes, Happy New Year. Thanks for having me again on your show today.
Well, it's a pleasure, Lisa. Now, Lisa, the mayor is making the rounds on mainstream media. He is saying the reason why all of the council meetings for calendar year 2025 will be virtual, like we're back in the pandemic years, is due to safety. And first of all, can you explain to me how there's ever been an unsafe situation at City of Pickering City Hall meetings? And furthermore, what do you think is really the ostensible or perhaps unspoken strategy for this edict?
Well, I got to tell you, David, there has never been anything that has happened at the City of Pickering Council meetings that would warrant us going to online.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing I've ever seen in the previous 2 years was when a grandmother got frog marched out of there who was 65, and the only reason she had to leave was because she wouldn't obey the mayor. So he told her basically to stop talking, and she refused to. He said, sit down. She didn't want to sit down. And she ended up having to leave. So she got escorted out of there. She actually received a trespass notice.
You know, it's funny, Lisa. I think if there's anyone who should feel unsafe, it's those constituents or members of the media, and yes, I'm speaking by personal example, who come in and might have the audacity of saying an impolite statement, asking an impolite question, because the last time my camerawoman Avery and I were there in December, I think I counted at one point 20 Durham regional police officers. If you came late to the council meeting, Lisa, and I'm not making a joke, you would have sworn there was an active shooter on presence. It was like, you know, the proverbial killing a fly with a bazooka. That to me is irresponsible in the first place, given that Durham region, like much of the GTA, we are experiencing a record crime wave, yet the mayor and or council thinks it's prudent to take about 20 officers off the streets and do what? Intimidate the constituents?
Well, that's exactly it. And you know what? I actually asked the CAO at the end of that meeting on December the 16th why we had so many police officers. And I found out that there were actually 14 officers.
Okay.
4 of them were paid duty officers that we actually had, which is double the amount that we normally have, because as of late, they usually have 2 police officers. They doubled it to 4. And then Durham Regional Police, for the second time last year, decided they were just going to send an extra 10 police officers to our chambers. So they literally pulled them off of the streets of Durham, where you are completely correct in saying that we have so much crime because of the violence, the guns, the carjackings, the sex trafficking, you know. And they pulled 10 extra cops off of the roads to come to our chambers to watch our chambers, which had, I don't know, I mean, if you were to count somebody, I would say no more than 30 people there. And that was it. So that was very, very disturbing, because it's very intimidating for anyone to walk into our chambers and see that many police officers. So, I mean, they were just creating a fear that did not exist.
Based on the commentary on social media, they thought it was prudent to double the resources here tonight. And again, the Durham Regional Police make their own decisions about where they police in our city. And I'm glad they were here, because they looked after some people that were not respecting our rules.
Well, and that's the thing, Lisa. I mean, the first order of business was for me and my camerawoman to be frog marched out. But I assume after that happened, there was no violence happening in the chambers. There were no death threats being issued.
No, there was absolutely nothing at all. The next thing that happened was a delegate got up to speak, and they started to criticize the mayor. And the mayor and council didn't like it, so he immediately cut off his delegation. He was supposed to have 5 minutes to delegate. I think he got probably about, I don't know, maybe 2 sentences in. The mayor didn't like what he had to say, because he was actually trying to tie the lack of transparency and accountability that we're having in our council with the new legislation change that they're trying to push right now. And he was trying to tie it in with that, and the mayor just didn't want to have anything to do with it, so he actually cut it off.
I asked you to not interrupt me when I'm speaking. If you let me finish my sentences, you'll see how it is related.
Your delegation is regards to Mr. Calandras. Our procedural bylaw has nothing to do with that.
I'm speaking of accountability and transparency, which is in the letter. I'm not going to debate you on this. Please let me speak and wait to the end.
Sir, thank you for your delegation. I would remind members of council of our procedural bylaw in regards to 8.07 about not arguing with the delegate, not treating him with disrespect. And I'm sure Mr. Abrams will.
Point of personal privilege, Mr. Mayor. Didn't you just treat that delegate with disrespect?
No.
I'm just saying, because you didn't let him finish And then right after that is when they decided they were going to sanction me. So since they were going to sanction me that day for another 30 days pay for something that I said, and I'll tell you what that is if you want to know, I guess they figured that there would be a lot of people in our chambers and a lot of unhappy people.
And I do want to get to your sanctioning, Lisa, because that's a big part of the story. I mean, you're a single mother. You have lost 9 months of pay
9 months of
for espousing, as far as I can tell, wrong thought, at least in the opinion of the mayor and council. But in addition to the safety argument that the mayor has made, that's Kevin Nash, he keeps referencing alt-right, that there are people of the alt-right coming into the chamber, that they're creating an unsafe situation. Alt-right is kind of a word to suggest people who talk about things like white replacement theory, they're white supremacists, and so on. You're not a white supremacist, are you, Lisa?
No, not at all. I'm a conservative is what I am. And right now, our council seems to think that anyone who is conservative is of the alt-right. So, I mean, that's including all the concerned parents out there about what their children are learning at schools. It's all the people out there that believe that we should have neutral flags on our governmental buildings. It's all the conservative people out there that think that, little men should not be changing with little girls. That's what right now they're considering as alt-right. I mean, I could go on with the list, but I think you get the idea of what I'm saying.
Absolutely amazing. And I got to tell you, Lisa, you're making my argument about my bafflement, if you will, of how low the turnout rates are for municipal elections, because ultimately these are the people affecting your life in the most direct fashion. And, there's that saying, those who do not care about politics will be ruled over by those who do care about politics. And I think that's what we're seeing here in Pickering. And that, the question arises, I don't know that much about Pickering. It's about 105,000 population. It's just east of Toronto. But the constituents, as far as you can tell, are they on board with all these censorious mandates?
No, not at all. And that's why now we start to see an increase at our council meetings is because they're not on board with this. And they just want to get out there and voice their opinions. But of course, now with the draconian measures, the authoritative measures that the council has put in place, they can't even come and speak at our council meetings anymore to something that's not on the agenda and voice their concerns. Even though you are correct in saying that municipal politics, we're the closest to the people. Yeah. But now, they can't even come and address their concerns in their own public chambers. They have to email us, and we don't even have to respond if we don't want to be quite honest with you, Dave.
And Lisa, it would seem to me that not even certain councillors, I'm looking at you, Lisa Robinson, can't express concerns because, as you alluded to earlier, 9 months of pay banished from your salary. What in the world did you do to warrant that kind of a financial penalty?
Do you want to know about all the sanctions I did, or just the last
Maybe the Reader's Digest version.
Reader's Digest version is that, I was trying to bring forward notices of motions that my constituents wanted me to bring forward, like I said, with the flags, the washrooms, and, age restrictions on pride events. But the last sanction, I was on a podcast about 7 months ago, so now they're really digging back. And 7 months ago, I made the comment and I said, if I was to become mayor, I would use the strong mayor's powers for good. I would get rid of the CAO, the city solicitor, and a bunch of the directors, because corruption starts at the top. I would tear down City Hall, but then I would build it back up from the bottom and give it back to the people. I lost 3 months' pay for that comment, which is almost $18,000.
Why?
For that.
What was so wrong about what you just said?
Well, they thought that it was intimidating, it was bullying to our CAO and to other members of staff. And so they've actually taken that and also manipulated our code of conduct to make it seem like it was bullying and intimidation, where it was just a what if, and if I was to become mayor. And I can tell you, if I am going to become mayor or run for mayor, that's how I'm going to run my platform.
Well, you know, Lisa, it's incredible to me. I mean, it seems that in Pickering we have so many precious little hothouse flowers that are on display that have to be shielded. I say, whatever level of politics you get into, you've got to have Godzilla thick skin, you know, thick enough to repel exocet missiles, if you know what I mean. But clearly, there's too many precious people with this council. Here's a disturbing thing that's not getting nearly the amount of publicity that it should. At the end of the day, all municipalities in Ontario, they're creatures of the province, right? And we saw that an early example of that in the Doug Ford administration, when he slashed in half the number of city councillors in the city of Toronto, going from 50 to 25. You would think that the province could rein in this kind of censorious behavior, I think, but instead, they're doubling down. They're going through a process of legislation where people like you know, councillors that aren't with the program can be removed without an election. Tell us about that.
Yes, absolutely. And I got to tell you, first and foremost, is that, you know, Pickering is one of the forerunners of this whole entire pushing this legislative change is what they're doing. And so that's why right now they're perpetuating a lot of fear surrounding the city of Pickering. So it does aid in this whole entire legislative change. So with the change, what they want to do is that they want to be able to say, hey, you know what, we don't like you, Lisa, we don't like your views, we don't like anything that you stand for because you're not a yes nodder, you're not following our particular narrative, and you have dissenting views. So what would happen is that they would be able to remove an elected member of council if they wanted to. And all they would have to do is vote on it. And as long as they got full support of the council, then it would be bye-bye councillor. And as we know right now, everything happens at the city of Pickering is a 6-1 vote. So I would be gone. And not only that, I wouldn't be allowed to run in the next subsequent election either, which is even for the next 4-year term, no matter how much support I had, I would not be able to run in the next election. So they're literally stifling the voices of the people. And basically it could be election tampering, it could be rigging an election, because now you are not allowing the people to have their voices heard by whom that they want to pick as their representative.
You know, Lisa, I find this outrageous and egregious. I mean, that is the very reason for an election. If people in your ward decide, you know what, Lisa Robinson, she's not for me, I'm voting for the other guy or gal, then so be it. But they're taking away the voice of the people by having this draconian legislation. And by the way, the provincial politicians acting this way, there's a Latin phrase that translates in English into who watches the watchers. I imagine this legislation doesn't apply to the provincial politicians, correct?
No, of course not.
Unbelievable.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No. And it's just the fear that's going on right now. Like right now, I don't know if you happen to see that video that came out on December the 30th that my mayor and Pickering City of Pickering put out, of course, that, you know, they've been perpetuating on the news over the last couple of days. Well, surrounding this fear, they're just using this fear as a way to push that legislation into effect. And the thing is like, you know, they're saying that there's so much fear happening at the city of Pickering that, you know, councillors were getting death threats, this, that. They're afraid to come to council meetings, so that's why they want to go to online. But the reality, the fact of the matter is that, you know what, these councillors and the mayor, they bring their family to our council meetings. They bring their wives, they bring their daughters. They even brought their 8-year-old granddaughter to the last meeting on December the 16th. And yet they turn around and they say that, oh my goodness, they're so fearful for their lives and it's so bad. why would they be bringing their family members, their loved ones, into a place that they thought that was so harmful? So you can see the contradiction there. So they're using this and they're now going to online meetings. Why? So they can push forward the agenda at the provincial government level, have Doug Ford push this through with Minister Calandra. And so they don't have to be accountable to the people, because as you know, at the council meetings, I'm very vocal. The mayor's constantly turning off my mic. I'm constantly turning it back on. Now, when it moves to online, what's going to happen? I won't be able to answer questions. He can suppress my mic, and nobody would ever know the wiser of what's happening. They'll just think, oh, Councillor Robinson has nothing to say today, which is never the case.
And you know, I must tell you, Lisa, last night I did reach out to Mayor Kevin Ash by phone, and we had, I think, about a 20-minute conversation, very civil, and part of it was me inviting him to you know, sit where you're sitting right now, have an interview. Look, I'll be hard on him, but I'll be fair. And he said he's going to think it over, because, you know, we always reach out for the other side of the story. But one of the things he brought up, and it was something the security guard brought up when we were being frog marched out last month, is why are you so insistent on filming when there's a live stream of the council chamber meetings? And I said, you know, that's an excellent question. And here's a very good answer, I think. It's because we have proof that these live streams get censored from time to time when things get a little hot under the collar. Is that indeed the case in terms of what's happening?
You are 100% true in saying that. You can easily watch videos. You can see people are applauding and you can't hear a thing. Didn't you just treat that delegate with disrespect? No. I'm just saying, because you didn't let him finish People are going like this and they're talking, and of course you can't hear anything. We've also discovered that there's also been other videos that there has been time jumps and there has been white noise. And so if you are not in the council meeting at that time, you will never know what's been said or what has been missed, just like you said. So, you know, that is audio and recording manipulation. So moving to online, I'm telling you, more censorship.
It's just incredible, and I'm just looking over your shoulder. On our bookcase, we have a copy of 1984, and these kind of tactics, that's really plucked out of George Orwell's dystopian nightmare, isn't it?
It is. It's very, very Orwellian what's happening at the city of Pickering right now.
Lisa, there's a couple of other things you told me off camera. You have been threatened, in addition to losing 9 months of your salary, but you might have your budget taken away and you might have restrictions on your office space. What's all that about?
Yes, that is correct. I do a lot of my videos, my YouTube videos on my Lisa Robinson channel, where I speak out about, you know, the corruption, the collusion, everything that I see that's happening at the city of Pickering, and, like, you know, the way that we are recklessly misusing our taxpayers' dollars. So I do a lot of my filming in my office at City Hall, because I got a great corner office there. I love it. And apparently the CAO does not like the content. So because she doesn't like the content, she says, like, you know, again, that I'm bullying or intimidating, or, you know, I'm spreading mistruths, where everything that I can say, I can confirm. And I keep very, very good notes on it. But because she doesn't like it, she says, if I do any more of these videos from my office, she's going to ban me from my office.
Does she have that power, by the way?
I would not think that she would, because to me, I think that this is more like extortion, because she did send me a letter saying, if you don't shut up, Councillor Robinson, you know, you're not going to be able to use your office. In my opinion, that is silencing an elected official, which could have criminal intentions behind it, as extortion. And then also, because of my last town hall that I just finished having, and that's what this other video has to do with, again, said that I made a whole bunch of false misrepresentations. But I have another video coming out that will show that, no, I did not. And because of that, they're saying, they're going to take away my budget and I won't be able to use it for any more council meetings, taking away my ability to have a place for my constituents to come out and meet me, to discuss issues with the city of the Pickering or any other political issues that they want to speak about. So they're silencing the voice of the people, and they're silencing their right to reach out and have a place to be able to speak with their elected official.
Lisa, I would call this banana republic tactics, except we can't grow bananas in Canada, so maybe we're a maple syrup republic, for lack of a better descriptor. One last thing I wanted to touch base with you on. I'm so glad we started last year covering Pickering Council because, nobody will be able to, at least not in person this year, going all virtual. But this is finally getting some mainstream media attention. But what I found shocking, we're, again, briefly speaking off camera, a lot of the media outlets in the mainstream covering this, they're not reaching out to you to get your side of the story, and you are a big part of this story. You're getting a lot of blame for the reason why they have to go virtual. What's going on?
I'm not sure what's going on with the mainstream media. They just, it seems like, they've lost their journalistic integrity. They just pick up these stories, they run with them, they get their clickbait titles, and they just go with it. And I literally yesterday had to reach out to CP24 and say, hey, you know what? You have my name and my photo all over the media all day long, and you guys haven't reached out to me. So I actually sent them in one of my videos and said, how about some equal time here and show the other side of the story, instead of just manipulating this one fear-mongering, propaganda stunt pushed by the city of Pickering. And then finally in the afternoon, they started putting up a couple of things that I said, but they stopped short of the important things that really need to be said and heard by the people to get the truth out.
That is, to me, just dreadful journalism. As I mentioned, I've extended an invitation to Mayor Ash. I'm happy to entertain him, but I would not feel good if I didn't do that, because I want to get his side of the story. So moving forward, let's hope there is more fair media coverage. Although, it might be a bit of perversely ironic, Lisa, that maybe because they're going all virtual, they've created some attention for themselves, and maybe other media outlets will now be tuning in to find out what kind of shenanigans are going on, whereas if this wasn't announced, that wouldn't be the case.
This is true. So yes, there is always that rainbow. There's always that, what do they say, that
silver lining?
Silver lining, right? There is always that, which is great. And, what I would like to see, if they want to make this whole entire thing about this fear mongering and pretend like, there's this big danger surrounding our council meetings, I have actually in my video, and I will be sending an email to the city of Pickering later on this afternoon, telling them that I still want to have my position, my rightful seat on the dais, and I want to be there for my council meetings. If they don't want to be in the chambers, that's fine. They want to be cozy in their little rooms at home, then that's fine. But I want to be sitting there doing my job at the dais, in the chambers at City Hall, and if any of the public want to come to the meeting, then they're more than welcome. Because they're not only shutting out the people and kicking them out of their City Hall and their chambers, but they don't know the circumstances of other people. They might not have internet access. They might not, be able to connect, and they just want to be with the people. They want to get out, and they're now, depriving these people of that right.
Well, if that does happen, I guess they'll have to adhere to a dress code. One of the things I forgot to mention in terms of the safety narrative, Lisa, is Mayor Ash has talked about people wearing camouflage and people wearing masks. And I'm thinking, so golly, if the stars of Duck Dynasty came to Pickering, they wouldn't be allowed into council chambers. Right. And masks, my goodness, it was only a couple of years ago that if you didn't wear a mask, they would phone the police and have you carted away. Yeah. So very selective standards, I think, in terms of what amounts to a so-called unsafe situation.
Yeah, they're very, very hypocritical in just about everything that they say and do. You can see that. And that's just the way that the city of Pickering is. Very, very hypocritical.
Yeah, well,
and it needs to stop. It really needs to stop.
I don't like what's going on, and I have even more vitriol in my heart for the Doug Ford progressive conservatives allowing this to happen, and in fact doubling down with this legislation that we previously discussed. You know, there's so much more to talk about, but we're practically out of racetrack. One last thing, of course, Lisa, you've told me before in the past, you are going to run for mayor in Pickering. Can you tell me about that? I mean, do you have the financial wherewithal to mount an effective campaign? Do you think you stand a chance going up against the incumbent?
Well, first of all, I just want to go back to what you said about Doug Ford there. I have reached out to him on numerous occasions.
Yep.
I have written letters to him, both him and Minister Calandra.
Yep.
And I have not received any notices back from them whatsoever.
Knocked me down with a feather on that one.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. And yes, with running with mayor, I mean, 2026 is going to be the next municipal election.
Right.
And I believe that I will have a lot of support behind me at that time. Because I am the only one that, you know, has been really rising up and speaking for the people. And you can tell by all of the 6-to-1 votes that have happened, how much I stand up for the people. You know, I start speaking about the budget. I speak about the environment, about the way that they, you know, recklessly misusing our tax dollars. You know, I bring all of this to the forefront. And I'm the only councillor so far that is doing that and opposing and being, you know, the dissenting voice to get to the truth. So,
well, you know, 2026 will be here before you know it. And the only other thing I have to say is an epilogue to this story, Lisa, and we talked about this before. People might say, oh, who cares about Pickering? Never been to Pickering, never planned to go. My fear is this virus, this censorship agenda will cotton on, that, you know, other municipalities will say, hey, look what Pickering is doing. And hey, let's face it, maybe they're inspired by the Prime Minister. He's all about shutting down voices, shutting down independent journalism. Why don't we apply these same rules to keep these, you know, nosy watchers from observing? So that is my fear, because I feel that this is completely undemocratic, and we got to nip this in the bud, unlike what the province seems to be doing, which is further empowering the censorship, which is a disgrace. Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And the thing that a lot of people don't know is that in municipal politics, and I'm sure this happens at the other levels of government as well, but whenever we pass something, so like, you know, the draconian measures that we have put into place in Pickering, we also send it out to either the AMO, or we send it out to
That's the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Correct.
Okay.
Or we send it out to the other municipalities. So what happens is that every one of those councils and all those other municipalities across Ontario, they all see exactly what it is that we've passed if we want them to see it. And then what can happen is that that council member from that, or that mayor from that next municipality over, or like, you know, even, you know, the other side of the province, can pick it up and say, oh, look, Pickering was successful, and like, you know, dropping their delegation times from 10 minutes to 5 minutes, or, you know, they've gone to online meetings. So guess what? They can do it, we can do it. So then it just starts falling, like, you know, like the dominoes. So it's exactly what you said. It happens with us, and it's going to keep moving on, and there's that virus spreading.
Well, Lisa, Happy New Year to you. I wish you was
Happy New Year to you.
better foot. And hey, what can I tell you, Mayor Ash, you know, I extended that opportunity for you to come in and justify many of these, you know, pieces of legislation and jurisdiction that I feel are unjustified. I'm willing to give you the microphone if you can convince me that you're right and I'm wrong and others are wrong. You have that standing invitation. Look forward for you to take it up in the New York. Thank you.
Hey folks, I know you love it when Rebel News tells you the other side of the story, and I can tell you what's happening in Pickering. If you're depending on the mainstream media, aka Justin Trudeau's trained seals, you are not getting the truth. But we depend on you. We don't receive a nickel's worth of funding from the federal government. could you please go to rebelfieldreports.com? That's rebelfieldreports.com. And if you're able to, kindly make a donation.